Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today, we're gonna dive into the wonderful world of ChatGPT. This is the 4th video in our series, where we're going to cover everything from the very basics all the way up to some advanced prompt hacks that even a teenager can use. And don't worry, if you haven't watched the previous videos, this one is still going to make sense. And now, without further ado, let's get straight into it. So, the first thing that you should know about ChatGPT is how to actually use it. If you don't know how to interact with it, then you won't be able to get any responses at all. And fortunately, it's incredibly simple. All you need to do is type in your question or your prompt, hit enter, and then boom, you will receive an answer. For example, here I typed in, what is the capital of France? Hit enter! It says Paris. Super simple. But sometimes you want to have a bit more of a conversation with it, and that S totally fine too. You can just continue the conversation by replying to ChatGPT, and it will continue to remember what you've said previously. So for example, let's say you want to ask it to write a poem about cats. So you would type in, write a poem about cats, and then hit enter. Okay, not bad. That's a pretty good start. Let's say that you really liked that poem, and you want the robot to write another one. All you have to do is reply saying another one, and boom! There you go. The robot has now written another poem about cats. Now, the great thing about this tool is that it is so versatile. You can basically ask it to do anything that you want, and it will try its best to fulfill your request. For example, you could ask it to write a song, create a meme, tell a joke, summarize an article, generate ideas for a business, and the list goes on and on. Here are some examples of prompts that you can use to get ChatGPT to write different kinds of creative content. As you can see, the possibilities are truly endless. So, just have fun with it and see what you can come up with. But now that you know how to actually use it, the next thing that you need to know is how to make it work for you. Because if you don't use it properly, then you're not going to get the results that you want. And one of the most important things to keep in mind when using ChatGPT is to be as specific as possible. For example, if you ask it to write a poem about love, it's going to be pretty generic and probably not that good. But if you give it some more specific instructions, like write a sonnet about two lovers who are separated by war, then you're going to get a much better result. You also want to make sure that your prompts are clear and concise. If you ask it something that's way too complicated or long, then it's not going to be able to understand. And it's just going to give you a generic response. Instead, break down your prompts into smaller, simpler parts so that it can actually process them properly. Another thing to keep in mind is that ChatGPT is only as good as the data that it was trained on. It is not going to be able to give you any insights or information on things. That happened after 2021 because it doesn't have access to the internet and it has eons been updated since then. So if you're asking it about current events or anything that happened recently, you're not going to get a very accurate answer. But now that you know how to use it, the next thing that you need to know is how to protect yourself. Because if you're not careful, then you could end up getting scammed or hacked. For example, never share your password with anyone. This is super important because if someone else has access to your account, they can do all sorts of things like steal your personal information, hack your other accounts, or even use your account to scam other people. So keep your password safe and don't share it with anyone. You also want to be careful about the information that you share with ChatGPT. Anything that you type into the chat box is stored on their servers and could potentially be used against you. For example, if you ask it how to create a bomb, then it might remember that information and use it against you in the future. So what you want to do instead is avoid asking it any questions that could be used to harm yourself or others. Also, be aware of scams and phishing attempts. There are a lot of scammers out there who try to trick people into giving them money or personal information by pretending to be someone else. If you get any messages from someone claiming to be from ChatGPT support, don't click on any links or give them any information. They're probably just trying to scam you. The final thing that you need to know about ChatGPT is how to actually get the most out of it. Because if you don't use it properly, then you're not going to be able to get the best results possible. One of the best ways to get high-quality responses is to use what is called a system message. A system message is basically just a way of telling ChatGPT how you want it to respond. For example, you could tell it to be more creative, more detailed, or even give it a specific writing style. So, before you start chatting with ChatGPT, take a few seconds to think about what kind of responses you're looking for. then use a system message to let it know. This isn't exactly a secret or a hack, but it is something that a lot of people forget to do. So don't make the same mistake. Another thing that you can do to get better results is to use what S called a memory message. A memory message is basically a way of telling ChatGPT to remember something from earlier in the conversation. This can be useful if you're having a longer conversation and want the chatbot to remember what you've talked about previously. For example, if you're asking it to write a story, you could use a memory message to tell it to include certain characters or events that happened earlier in the story. Just type in remember, followed by whatever you want it to remember, and it will do its best to comply. Finally, the last thing that you need to know is how to use some advanced prompts. Because if you want to get really creative with ChatGPT, then you're going to need to know how to use these. There are all sorts of different prompts that you can use to get ChatGPT to generate different kinds of content. Here are just a few examples to get you started. As you can see, the possibilities are really endless here. You can basically get it to do anything that you want. Just have fun with it and see what you can come up with. Okay, so those are the 3 main things that you need to know about ChatGPT. Now you're officially an AI pro. Just remember to use it responsibly and have fun with it. And if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like it and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.